Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm going to be playing Forza Horizon 6 on Steam Deck thanks to Xbox for providing a code of the game. So the game is out right now, verified. It really depends on the game. UE5 stuff like High on Life 2 is verified, but the settings by default are ultra performance upscaling. Files 155 gigs! And I want to thank Instant Gaming for sponsoring this video. Instant Gaming is a website to get cheaper games for PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. We got the game we're playing today, Forza Horizon 6, for $54.79 US. And some of the upcoming games, such as 007 First Lite with 24 hours early access for $58.28. New Lego Batman game, Legacy of the Dark Knight, for $50.94. So this one is a big one. Once I test it, we'll see if it catches on fire. And as usual, we're giving away one free game to one of you guys each month from Instant Gaming. Hit participate, follow myself and Instant Gaming in social media. And thanks again to Instant Gaming for sponsoring this video. Let's continue. Let's see. It's locked to 30 here. Let's remove VSync because SteamOS already does that. Full screen, sure. Oh, there's an FPS counter. Hell yeah. We're enabling that at the top right corner. Motion blur short. If we put it long, usually makes more sense for 30 FPS. FSR4 coming to Steam Deck, I'm excited for that. Personally, in a... Oh, and you have the descriptions as well. Short motion blur is recommended when running at high frame rates, and long motion blur is for low frame rates. But again, if you don't want to use it, in a racing game it doesn't look bad. I'm not a fan of motion blur personally, but in this case, it kind of makes sense. Let me see if it uses the entire screen. Yes, it does. Awesome. 800p. So we're covering a bit more GPU, unfortunately. Long motion blur. TAA on. Makes sense. Okay, this is at native resolution. What? No freaking way this is native. Actually, this is native resolution. Okay, 30 frames at native. GG. I think we have some room, actually. It's native res. Interesting. That's pretty surprising, actually. Let me see if shader quality can go lower. Oh yeah, it can. Okay, so you can make it even more potato. Alright. Let's do curve reflection, screen space reflections. You can turn them off, so they were actually on, but some textures were missing. On memory, we're already maxed out, but let's keep it with 800p at low and see what happens. With multiple cards on the screen. By the way, I'm using long motion blur because we're at 30, well, 30 frames is like the target. But here there's not much going on. It's just two cars, an open place. It's actually pretty, yeah, there we go. Something starts happening and it drops. I'll still lock it to 30 personally. Fancy audio features, revving through a tunnel, the engine exhaust. Oh, according to the revving of the motor and exhaust, it changes how it reverbs at the side. That's pretty cool. Those details are insane. Decent, I mean, again, they already said, oh yeah, it's Steam Deck compatible. They said it in the requirements. But I don't usually believe their word for anything. Because like I said, oh yeah, it's Steam Deck compatible, and they put you on ultra performance upscaling. I've seen that way too many times. This is not Unreal, of course, not Unreal Engine. But just the fact that by default it's at native blows my mind. I mean, the default settings are okay. It's just, don't go and unlock the frame rate, because it'll hitch quite a bit. The speed of the helicopter. Yeah, good stuff. Let's see. Yeah, I think we can increase the audio quality. Maybe it has more reverb. Japanese. But it runs way better than I expected so far. Medium setting, shadows on low. I mean, you could do that as well, but again, it's way too much, too heavy on memory. So if you do that, maybe it looks a tiny bit better. Nice, but it stutters more. And it already stutters with these settings. It's not unplayable, obviously, but you can notice. Again, I think it's pretty solid so far, considering how constrained we are on memory and CPU. Would you actually recommend playing it on the deck? Yeah, and I will keep playing it on deck. I'll play it on PC and deck like I do with most games out there that run decently enough. Because if you think about it, this means I can actually play it outside of my desktop PC that I work at all day. So to me, this is a thing that I will play on Steam Deck, without a doubt. Because again, you guys seen me play a lot of games on Steam Deck. So when it's a bad experience, I tell you right away. There's no way around it. All the ambient occlusion, it's nice that I turned it on my recommended settings. This is the default settings. You've been playing Death Stranding 2 on deck. It's definitely playable, but heavy combat, tanks FPS. There are parts that aren't even combat focused that run horrible on Death Stranding 2. That's a game I wouldn't play on Steam Deck. Death Stranding 2, keep that on your main PC or your PS5, or stream it to your Steam Deck instead. Alright, so a quick refresher on the settings. You can use HDR if you want to. This is the OLED Steam Deck. If you're on the LCD, this won't be available. 800p. Short motion blur. If you use long, it's also fine. It hides the 30 FPS better, but to me, it's a little bit too much. You can also turn it off if you want to. TAA, make sure it's at 0 sharpness. That's important. Otherwise, you'll see edges of everything. On graphics, basically low settings with screen space reflections on medium. All this on low. Screen space GI quality, this is for the ambient occlusion. Medium is fine. And this is basically it. These are the settings that should be like this in my opinion to get the best image quality while targeting 30 FPS. And then when it comes to the manual GPU clock, I highly recommend 1100 MHz. Otherwise, the game will be way more unstable. The city is the most demanding part by far, especially on the CPU. Unfortunately, we are heavily CPU limited in this game. And the city is a good test for this one. That's why the benchmark tool, which is pretty good by the way on this game, shows you that part in particular with multiple cars. And why the lock to 1100 MHz on the GPU? Well, the GPU and CPU, as I say multiple times across all my videos, are sharing a 15 watt TDP. So those 15 watts have to be shared between them. And when the CPU needs the power, it takes away from the frequency on the GPU to get more power to do its job, basically. And that works pretty well generally. But in a game like this that the CPU gets a spike in usage super quick, that's a big problem. You can notice that right now. So the GPU frequency is super unstable. That makes the frame time even worse than what it is right now. So as you can see, the CPU gets maxed out, the GPU is chilling a little bit. You could even put it at 1000 MHz if you want a little bit more power for the CPU. I think this is a good in-between. And as soon as you get out of the city, it's all good. So this takes a huge hit on the CPU in comparison to the other car. I'm going at 300 kilometers an hour. So yeah, this is the actual real test. As you can see, it can drop pretty hard, but still, it feels responsive. It's just that the city is really CPU heavy. But again, I still think it's playable, especially with these settings. The CPU suffers, yeah, but it doesn't stutter as much. Yeah, as you can see there, the CPU just chugs along when I'm going at a crazy speed in the middle of the city. Also, the networking hasn't been reliable at all. I think it's because the game releases today to everyone. So I'm not sure if that's related also to the performance drops, but as soon as you get outside of the city, it gets way better when it comes to CPU performance. So again, the city is more of a worst case scenario. Oof. So yeah, the problem is the city, even with the default settings, that is everything on low. Even if you're using upscaling, since the CPU is the limitation, the city really is a huge stress test for the CPU. You get a lot of stutters when you are with the default settings, which means the GPU is not forced to 1100. So the frequency jumps up and down. 1100, then it drops down to 700. That makes stutters happen way more often, and the game is way more unstable. I still think that the default settings in this game are good. It's just that the stability is not there without locking the GPU clock. I tried the GPU clock being lower. I think this is a good balance. Yeah, the city is not fantastic, but it's not fantastic even in the default settings that the game chooses for you. And since we're CPU limited and there are no more options that I can lower to help the CPU, we're SOL when it comes to driving in the city. But this, again, the GPU clock locking helps significantly when it comes to stability. Frame times are still not perfect, but again, considering we're playing a 2026 game on a portable device from 4 or 5 years ago, I think the visuals really hold up. Shadows look good, reflections are mostly cube maps and screen space. I mean, considering it's basically low settings with stuff on medium, this is pretty damn impressive, in my opinion. I mean, just look at this. Some textures are low resolution, obviously, especially the ones when you're getting closer to your car. And by that I mean when you're making the license plates, it's pretty pixelated. But we're already, again, maxed out on CPU, especially in the city. On memory, we're also maxed out. The Steam Deck has 16 gigs that are shared between video memory and system memory. So we're using basically all of it, 9.5 to 10 gigabytes on system RAM. And then for VRAM, 4.6 to 6 gigs. So we're basically using all the memory. Once it goes above that, it's really problematic for stability. What do I think about this? I think the game should be verified. I think the default settings are good enough. It's low, it doesn't have perfect frame times without locking the GPU to like 1100 megahertz, which is unfortunate, but for most people, it's plug and play. It's just a matter of opening the game. Everything works as you would expect. You don't have to touch anything really to make it playable. And I think that's the big thing regarding the verified system. I think as long as you can download the game, hit play, do nothing, and the game works very, very well with decent visuals, I think that's good enough. If you want the experience to be better when it comes to frame times, when it comes to adding some ambient occlusion, I think you should just do the tweaks that I told you, some stuff on medium, then lock the frequency to 1100 to let the GPU be consistent. And then other than that, I think it's a great experience considering it's a Steam Deck, and the verified games that we get nowadays are like ultra performance upscaling with unstable 30 FPS. So while the frame times are not perfect, I tried it on the PC version on my high-end PC. I have a 5090 by the way, and a 9950 X3D. When it comes to that, I think it's a game issue that they have to figure out here and there, because on a racing game, I think frame times are pretty important. But again, for the Steam Deck, I think this is pretty impressive results, all things considered. 2026 game with very good visuals even on low. So would I recommend it on Steam Deck? Yeah, it's actually pretty impressive. It's also native resolution. What the hell? Native resolution on Steam Deck in 2026? So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did taking a look at it. Unfortunately, it's a 150 gigs game, so I'll have to try it on MicroSD at some point. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see ya next time. Bye guys.